Many analysts are looking at those numbers and saying there are good times ahead for South Korea. Earlier today I spoke with Mark Walton of BNP Paribas and asked him if he thinks that's the case.
No, I think the optimism's pretty well founded, to be honest. Year-on-year growth rates can be a little distorting. It depends as much on what happened this time last year as it does now. I think that my personal preference is to look at the more nearer-term trends. And if we look at the exports, for instance, or industrial production, which is out this morning, the trends through the last few months have actually been pretty good and showing acceleration from a softer patch of growth for Korea that we saw in the first half of the year.
Where is the high point here, and do you think it's sustainable, what we're seeing this time?
Yeah, the hard point's always going to be a tough one to pick, but I think the outlook is pretty good. I think for Korea and North Asia, probably more broadly, the US is very, very important. We're seeing better signs of growth in the US economy, better domestic demand there, and there's a very strong correlation between what happens to the US economy and what happens to Korean exports.
Do you think Korean companies and the balance sheets in particular, are in a position to be increasing capex? Everyone's saying the increased investment in capital is a good thing.
Yeah, I think balance sheets are fairly healthy. You've had a sustained run of pretty good profit numbers from some of those Korean companies. We are seeing quite a lot of FDI outflow out of Korea, with some of the big, Samsung, for instance, looking to re-diversify its production base away from China to Vietnam. But we're also seeing stronger investment growth on the ground in Korea as well, and I think those are all good indicators for the sustainability of a strong uptrend that we're seeing at the moment.
Let me put to you one theory that I've heard, which casts a little bit of a doubt over this increased capex. The President promised the chaebols last year that she would maybe go easy on the whole prospect of democratization of that area of industry if they would step up their capital expenditure. Do you think this is just a reflection of some political machination rather than real investment optimism amongst companies?
Possibly, although to be fair, the chaebols are always at least notionally in the crosshairs of government policy. But to be honest, not a lot has really been done about what you described there as the democratization of the industrial base in Korea for quite a long time. And so, there might be a little bit of gamesmanship here. But I think at the same time, I think the Korean companies are probably seeing the same good signals that we're seeing coming from global and US demand in particular. So I think, they have pretty solid grounds for stepping up their investment at the moment.
And tell me about exports. How are you reading the export picture? Because we've heard for the past 6 months at least, and perhaps longer, Korean companies complaining about how their export performance is being damaged by the Japanese yen, and yet a lot of the time we're seeing numbers which suggest that in fact it's not.
I'm not sure that Korean companies are quite as exposed to movements in the won that they once were. They've done a lot to establish pretty strong positions in key export markets through branding and product development and relationships within the value chain. And I think the currency is obviously one part of international competitiveness, but I don't think it's quite as important as it used to be.